Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my session, my short session, kicking us off. And a bit as Claire was saying, we're going to get warmed up with the topic of impact. I'm sure that's high on your list of priorities as a job seeker, as someone building your career, developing your network. And we frequently ask ourselves, don't we, what impact am I making? Am I having good impact? Am I having no impact? And I think just as a punchline, it's better to have some impact than none, because if you have no impact, you're not memorable. So I've already made some impact with you because I fumbled with my camera. So you will remember me, maybe not for the right reasons, but there we go. So I've got years of experience of coaching. I also run training courses and design and evaluate those. I'm also HR support for lots of different organisations, huge organisations, small organisations. And really, to sort of summarise what I do is I help people to make the most of the skills, the experience and the personal characteristics that they've got. It doesn't guarantee success if you are aware of the impact you're making, but what it will do, that awareness will help you to put your best foot forward and to present yourself in such a way that you stand more of a chance of getting what you want. So I can tell you about those things if you connect with me after the session, and I'll pop my email up later if you are indeed interested in doing any one-to-one coaching, or maybe if you're an employer, something for your organisation. So from sunny Cambridgeshire, which is where I am today, and it looks gorgeous out there, I'm going to start by asking you to pop into the chat initially. I know we've got quite a few people on, so we won't be able to see it, probably everything, but can I ask you just instant reaction to name somebody that we would all know or we might have heard of, so somebody famous or infamous who has high positive impact for you. So if you'd like to go to the chat and to start using that for me, that would be great.
Okie doke. So I'm poised over the chat box. So can you see those as well, Carol, coming through? Or do you want me to read some out to you?
Oh, lovely. Bill Gates and Joe Biden. Oh, lovely. Bit of a blast from the pole. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. David Attenborough's flying there, literally. Barack Obama. Yeah. Steve Jobs. Oh,
for themselves, which is interesting. Very good.
Why not? Why not? There's a few I haven't heard of. Oh, fantastic.
There's a lot of Elon Musk, which is, yeah. I'm with you there.
So these are, keep them coming, Michelle Obama, of course, yeah. More David Attenborough's. He's kind of our popular vote at the moment, isn't he? He's number one. So if I said to you, Kirsty Walk, yeah, she can be quite powerful, can't she? So thinking about these people, maybe they have something in common. Let's think about what that thing might be. So people often say to me, oh, well, impact is about when you walk in a room, everyone looks at you. It could be that, couldn't it? But it's not that. For a lot of those people you've mentioned, somebody like David Attenborough, his impact is far more wide-reaching than that. And it's not about necessarily the way he presents things, although he's pretty good at that. It will also be about his credibility. So top tip number one is have credibility. Maybe that's talking about your experience, not necessarily the number of years you've been doing something, because that doesn't equate to being good at something particularly, although it might show somebody in your industry that you've been around the block and you've got that t-shirt and you know what you're doing. So I would say, first of all, think about how you're going to express your credibility. How are you going to start to build trust with people? because what we know is that, particularly when we're meeting strangers, we have to get that trust really quickly. There aren't many shots at impressing, particularly say in an interview situation, or even in an application situation. What are you going to say on one of those? And I'm sure you've filled in quite a few that have been pretty mind-numbing. Those application forms, I know I look down them and I think, how am I going to make myself stand out? They're asking standard questions. I'm going to give standard answers probably. How do I, what do I do to make myself appear different? So once we do get that seat at the table and we get through to an interview, we want to think about what am I going to do that is going to make me stand out from all the other candidates? Can I ask you another question and pop your answers into the chat? Can I ask you, on average, how many applications do you think there are for each post that's out there at the moment? So let's get some ideas from people. Yeah. So you're all in harmony with each other there, really. And whatever number you said, you might be right. But the overriding impression I get from you is that there are a lot of fish in the sea at the moment. And I think the events of last year, and hopefully we're working towards an exit from sort of changed circumstances. But what we have to accept is that the job market has exploded in terms of the number of candidates that are out there. There always were a high number of candidates, but now we have probably more, as I said, fish in the sea than we had before. So again, this differentiation that you need to make is really, really important. So let's wind back to our impressive people that you told me about, the David Attenboroughs, the Michelle Obamas, and all the others that you mentioned. And I'd like to run a quick poll to analyse that a tiny bit more. So Ruth's going to do this for me. Here it comes. Lovely. Here it is in the background. So 3 options there, and I'd like you to just choose one, please. What element of the impact that they made on you, that positive impact, sang most to you? So let's have some voting.
Lovely. How are we getting on, Ruth?
Yes, good. Almost everyone's voted.
Wonderful.
Lovely. Thank you.
Would you like me to end?
Yeah, if we've got a pretty good spread of votes there, let's close that and
okay, I'll close that now.
Have a peek at the results.
There we go.
Oh, wow, there's a resounding winner there, isn't there? It's about the way someone has spoken. So thank you very much. 47% versus 31 and 22. So obviously I can't ask you to respond to that and what it was about the way they spoke, but we're thinking in that category about all the audio cues that we got from people. So audio, the speed they speak at, the accent, anything that we can hear really will impact, you've said, really has been the key impactful ingredient in their presence and in the impression they've made on you. So it may surprise you to know, well, not that a lot of research has been conducted in this area, but the research that has been conducted and validated pretty much shows that the non-verbal cues are what last. So yes, we hear what people say. If they are an expert, if they're a specialist in their field, we may think that what they're saying has got credibility or not got credibility. and the way they say is important, being clear, speaking at the right pace, the way they use the language, their voice, intonation, modulation, all really, really important, as you've said. However, the research does indicate that we are more, we take more of an impression from how someone's using their body. So that would be about the space, about whether someone's fidgeting, am I sitting still, do I look in control of my body parts, or am I madly flailing my hands around? People seem to like gestures. So if we look at somebody like David Attenborough, he's a classic example. The impact that he's making is, yes, it's from the credibility of the content, of course, but also it's about the way he engages with the audience. How does he put that information across? And very often it's in his eyes, I think, if I'm analysing one thing that is particularly impactful about that particular person you've mentioned. If we think about the other people you've mentioned, I'm sure you're now thinking, okay, what is it about those various elements of what they've been doing? So I do have a slide for you. Just hopefully get into my slides. Oh. Okay, so let's see where we are so far. We are in thinking about what are our essential, what's essential in our toolkit for impact. I've talked about establishing credibility and trust. And I think, you know, there are a number of ways to do that. As we said, good, honest eye contact, because that's really important. I guess what people have been saying to me recently, because we've all been working at arm's length from each other, when I've been coaching, people are particularly interested in how to make high impact remotely. And yes, it might be about the surroundings that you're in, but you may not be able to control those. Certainly minimizing any disruptions has been a big focus for people, in order to appear focused on the other person in the room. And I think that's a sort of an obvious top tip, if you like. But there are other ways to establish your credentials when you're working with somebody that you don't know. And talking about your subject without sort of embellishment stands you in really good stead. So what I mean by that is, it's important to explain your experience, but to leave something for them to work on, particularly in an interview situation, to leave something for them to ask you questions on. So I'm in the, is it fortunate position? Not sure, you can decide. I'm in the fortunate position of coaching interviewers as well as job seekers. And teams of people, for instance, in an organisation who are looking for promotion or looking for a career change. Also been working with a lot of people who are facing redundancy or have recently taken redundancy and are looking to maybe do something completely different. So the support that I've been doing with them is thinking about what's really important to them. And I think if you've got that in the forefront of your mind, you will definitely be able to drive your impact much more decisively. Whereas if you enter into, let's say you've got that seat at the table and you've gone into the interview, it's really difficult if you're working on the opposite person's agenda. And of course, I say to interviewers, work on your agenda, but get the best out of the interviewee. So how does the interviewee make really high impact? It would be lovely to find out from you. I don't know if you can put that in the chat. That would be really interesting. What are your concerns about your impact, let's say, excuse me, in the interview situation? So let's get a little bit of chat there if we can. What are your thoughts around, or your concerns around, making great impact?
Okay, there's a few coming through, mainly around confidence and nerves coming through. The main things. Over talking due to nerves, which I know a lot of us do.
Guilty.
Guilty. I'm not very good with that. I'm not very good with gaps. So yeah, feeling
Okay.
open, honest, self-esteem, the way they express themselves.
Lovely. Yeah. And as you can imagine, this is a human concern. This is, you would not be human if you weren't concerned about those things. So please take some comfort from that. We're all feeling that. I'm feeling some nerves about talking to a large audience this morning without being able to see you. So it's a very weird concept. So so thinking about things like nerves and confidence, I think running through things, doing rehearsals, particularly if you've got somebody at home that you can do that rehearsal with, is worth its weight in gold. Absolutely. So you may get some seriously honest feedback from a loved one. So do a bit of a health warning on that. If you're rehearsing your impact and you're saying I've tried that, I've said to my children who are not young, they're sort of the late teens and early 20s, and I've said to them, please be honest, what do you think? And to be honest, I'm not sure I liked the feedback that I got. So at least what you can do with that very, very candid feedback is work with it and think, okay, I might need to tweak this for a stranger. So you are going to get much harsher feedback from your loved ones, bear that in mind. But what I would say on the nerves front is definitely the more times you can rehearse those situations, and the more you can anticipate what you think is going to happen, the better. So how are we going to build that confidence? We've got to start, I hope everyone can see that slide that I've moved onto. What can we do that says to people, without saying, hello, I'm really confident and I'm really capable and you should give me this job, without having to say those words, what can we do? And there's a sort of a three-pronged, well-worn process, really. So I would say, first of all, respect others. You are going to respect yourself, but I'm saying respect others because you need to think about how the interaction's going to be. So in terms of, as you get yourself in that interview situation, and hopefully you'll be invited to quite a few, go in with an attitude that says, I'm communicating as an equal here. So the important thing for me when I'm coaching interviewers is that there should be a level playing field. And I know what you're saying out there, is that realistic? Because the interviewer holds all the ace cards, don't they? Well, from an interviewer perspective, and I sit on quite a few specialist panels and expert panels interviewing people for all sorts of reasons, I would say that I want a candidate to behave as if we are equals. I don't want someone to sit there and be really deferent to me and to not say anything and only to speak when they are questioned. Now, just put a caveat on that. I'm not inciting you to be, walk in and take over the interview room or anything like that. Of course, be respectful. But I think it's important that you are showing physically, you are saying things that show that you mean business. You need to show your desire to get that position. Too many times I see people walk in, the body language is very limp, and the handshake sort of nothing, sort of a bit of a wet kipper. And what we're trying to do is to say, I'm here and I deserve to be here. I'm not making up the numbers. and I'm in this with as good a shot as anybody else that's been given an interview. So of course, anticipate ways that you might be questioned, because if we can get one step ahead and think, what might they ask me about this role, be it a hairdresser or a working in a laboratory or making microchips or whatever that job is, anticipate good questions, and therefore you can plan good responses. Again, depending on the time you've got available, but plan probably 3 or 4 questions of your own that you want to ask. So in a recent survey, they said to interviewers, even with candidates that were performing well, what was the deciding factor in your choice of candidate? And they said, if we had 2 candidates who ticked all our requirements and, had the competencies we were looking for, passed all the tests with flying colours, we would differentiate those 2 candidates by how they interacted with us. Did they ask great questions? Did they ask intelligent questions about our business? Did they ask a question that no one else has asked? Now, of course, you could ask something very, very off topic. It might work, it might not, depending on the situation and depending on the employer. So whatever you do, plan your questioning and also think about what they might ask you. Secondly, respect yourself, which you need to do before, during and after the process of looking for a job or changing your career. So at every given stage, of course, the gold standard is displaying professional integrity. I think what can get lost though, and I see this with a lot of people that I'm coaching, is they think they've got to be someone else. So I would urge you to be yourself. Really important. So please do not disguise your accent. If you have a broad regional accent, speak normally, please. Personally, I find accents fascinating. If you were speaking too fast or I didn't catch something you said, it's up to me as the interviewer to ask you to slow down or repeat what you've said. So number 1 is be yourself. Number 2, we've touched on slightly already. Take control of the non-verbals. So the good eye contact, the honest responses, hand gestures. As you've seen, I cannot talk without using my hands. Sometimes I have to check myself and just make sure that they are not waving around too wildly. So make sure that everything you do in terms of your body language is open and genuine, and that it is you. It is how you sit. Obviously, I'm not suggesting that you slouch when you walk in for an interview, but it also don't appear too stiff, because you can't maintain that posture. Dress is quite a contentious subject, I'm aware, but I think my general rule of thumb is dress in a way that's appropriate for the role that you're going for, and then you will automatically have the right impact. Some roles will have health and safety conditions attached to them. You may have to wear protective clothing or protective equipment, particularly in our current climate, and it's showing an awareness that you know what the appropriate way to dress in that role is. Please dress for yourself. Having taken care of the legal requirements for the job that you're doing in terms of the way you're retired, please also express yourself as you normally would. Forcing yourself into a 3-piece suit and a tie, if that's not you, I'm sorry, I'll spot that straight away. And I will wonder why you've done that and why you're not being yourself as the interviewer. So, of course, appear clean and tidy and well turned out, but that's a given, isn't it? That's almost something I didn't need to say to you. The other thing that's quite difficult, I think, in a situation where you might have a perception that the interviewer has all the power, has all the ace cards, is articulating your genuine values. And again, I'm not suggesting that you walk in and immediately explain to the interviewer how you voted in the last election. That's not what we're talking about. But I do believe that you should be able to express your values in such a way that it's obvious to those people making the choices that you will be a good fit for the organisation, because obviously you'll have researched their values and pinpoint exactly where your own values tie up with that employer's. That will make extremely high impact. As I said, you know, be genuine, be authentic, and mention those things when appropriate. But I would much rather a candidate is honest about their own core values, because I've got to work with you, and if your values, you know, aren't on show, I don't want any surprises. I want to know who you really are, because that's who I want to employ. I don't want to employ someone who just says what they read on my website. And I think that's becoming even more crucial right now, that we see authenticity. And finally, I'm conscious of how we're doing for time, but finally I would say look after yourself. So again, this is about you, and keeping a healthy perspective. So we talk about career resilience. It's quite a buzz phrase at the moment. And what is career resilience? Well, it's partly about the stuff we just talked about on the rest of that slide. It's about being authentic and genuine and creating impact that you can sustain, which is the only way you can do it, is by being genuine. But also being kind to yourself here. So resilience in terms of setting realistic expectations. If there are 100, 500, 50, all those numbers came up in the chat when I asked you how many people do you think are going for jobs at the moment. Please be kind to yourself and set realistic expectations. I do really believe that there is a right time and a right place for the right person. So I think that would be my mantra in terms of, you know, coping with the knockbacks, coping with the setbacks. And statistically speaking, you are going to have to go for a few jobs before you get an offer, definitely. Pre getting the invitation to go for an interview, you know, a lot of applications will end up on the cutting room floor. I've been there, that's happened to me, and some employers will not even give you the courtesy of you know, replying and saying why you're not right for that job, even when you think I've hit all those criteria that they asked for in their person spec and in their job description. They may not even give you any feedback. So it's quite hard to work in the dark there. But certainly when I'm coaching people and coaching teams, we get underneath that and we have a look at some, you know, if we can get feedback from employers, we do. So being realistic is about thinking I may not get the first job I go for, and it may take longer than you initially anticipate. I think this is all about being kind to yourself at the moment, particularly because it could be quite a long process, and it's important that you do all your groundwork and get ready to make very high impact when you do get that seat at the table and you do get that interview. So that was really what I wanted to say to you.
Thanks, Carol. That's brilliant. Yeah, time-wise, doing fantastically. Still got a few moments left.
Oh, good.
Go through some Q&A. I've got a question here. So I think just to carry on from what you've said, yeah, absolutely, 100%. I think now's the time where we can come across as more authentic than ever. You know, we're in our homes, we are ourselves. Most of us have got our pajama bottoms on underneath our shirts. So
speak for yourself.
You know, well, okay, sorry, I'm alone.
I've got slippers on. I have got slippers on.
Me too. But yeah, I think now's the time. I mean, it used to be kind of a bit of a thing where people were kind of squeezing themselves into suits that weren't them, and let's just keep it authentic. I think that's what we've got, just ourselves really, to kind of put across on Zoom, etc. And I know Zoom's difficult as well. It takes some practice, I think, to come across it and be confident on Zoom. It's not a natural place where we're used to meeting people face to face, aren't we? So wonderful.
Yeah, just I think that's a really good point, Claire. And just building on that a tiny bit, what you said about, you know, the difference being in the room with somebody to not being in the room. As human beings, we use all our senses. We use smell, we use touch, you know, the handshake. Can you smell their aftershave or perfume? What does the room smell like that you're in? All that sort of, you know, what other noises can I hear when I go into you know, if I'm going for an interview into a company, or I'm meeting someone for the first time who wants to engage my services, I'm getting atmospherics, aren't I? I'm getting that feel for, is there a buzz in the office? Are people laughing who are working at their desks, or are they all kind of looking very bored and, you know, very drone-like working in that office? So I'm getting feedback normally on whether I want to be, you know, if I get that phone call that says you're being offered a job, I'm getting feedback on whether I feel it's right for me as well.
Absolutely. Okie doke. We've probably got a couple of minutes to run through some questions. I thought this one was really interesting, actually, Carol, from Paul. So again, how should we respond when an interviewer is clearly not up to interviewing effectively? Because that's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, if they've not been on one of my courses, then this could happen. Yeah, absolutely, Paul. So I would say, you know, stay true to yourself, and don't be drawn into answering any questions that you think are really crass or rubbish, to be honest. What we say to interviewers is ask questions that get results from the candidate that you can then measure them against the role. So ideally, and I know this sounds very sort of idealistic, but we shouldn't be measuring candidates against each other. We should be measuring them back to the job description and the requirements of the role. So therefore, it shouldn't be about, you know, whether you're third in the pecking order of being interviewed or 34th in the order. If you match the job requirements, you should get a seat at that table. It's then down to the tiny bits and pieces. It's down to the nuances. It's down to whether the interviewer thinks someone's a better fit than somebody else. So going back to your question specifically, what do I do if I'm sitting there and the interviewer is asking me stupid questions? And I'll give you an example. Something really hypothetical, like, what would you do if, is not a good question. It's not a quality question, because speaking personally, and I'm sure there's loads of you out there who are exactly the same, I've got a brilliant imagination. So somebody said to me, what would you do if you were an international glamour model? Boy, can I actually imagine me, if I shut my eyes, I can imagine myself doing that job. Let's be realistic, I'm never doing that job in a million years, am I? I'll leave it to the people who have the credentials, and I don't. So, you know, a stupid question, what are you going to do with it? The other sort of question that has been popular, but I really, really am hoping that it's on the way out, is, you know, give me 2 strengths and 2 weaknesses. And it really saddens me, you know, my heart drops when I hear interviewers asking people to talk about their weaknesses. I was on a really great webinar recently, and it's not the only great one they've done. They've done a series of great webinars in lockdown with Belbin. Don't know if any of you have experience of having your Belbin profile done or having a look at that. I would urge you, if you can get your Belbin profile done, then I would do that. It's something I work with a lot of the time, but as an organisation, they've put out some fantastic webinars, and recently they were talking about how to take what are seen as your not your top strengths. Let's be honest, everyone's got well-developed muscles and some which are less well-developed. Taking those less well-developed muscles and putting them in a light to interviewers that says, I'm aware of this, I've done something about it, And I think your organisation can help me on that journey to make that a really well developed muscle. So that's a good tool. I would definitely advocate, you know, what's the answer? We get rubbish questions. What do we do? Stay true to yourself. Definitely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carol. We could sit and chat to you all day. There's so much. I know, and time goes so quickly, but we are out of time, unfortunately. But thank you so much. It was fantastic. Really, really
thanks
powerful
to everyone.